They told you strength is about muscles, about raising your voice, about being in control, dominating the room, taking what you want. But they lied. Real strength doesn't shout. It whispers in the silence after everyone else has walked away. It doesn't punch. It endures. It doesn't chase approval. It knows exactly who it is, and that's enough. I once believed what every boy is taught growing up. Be tough, be hard, never cry, never ask for help. Pain, you swallow it. Fear, you hide it. And love, you only show it if you're sure you won't get hurt. That's what I thought strength was, until life beat the illusion out of me. There was a moment, not that long ago, when everything collapsed. Not just my career, not just my relationship. Everything. My sense of worth, my belief in myself. I had spent years building a life around an image, a man who never bends, never breaks, always knows what to do. But it was all paper. And when the wind came, I saw just how fragile I really was. I stood in my apartment alone, surrounded by the silence that follows failure. The kind that echoes, that eats into your bones, that makes you question everything you ever thought you were. I had no one to call, not because there weren't people in my life, but because I didn't know how to be honest with them. I didn't know how to say, I'm lost. I didn't know how to say, I don't know what to do. That's when I understood the first truth of real masculine strength. You cannot fake it. You can wear the suit, you can hit the gym, you can quote the Stoics. But none of it matters if you're afraid to face yourself. If you run from your own shadow, you'll never stand in the light. True strength is the courage to sit with your own pain and not escape. To look at yourself, really look, and see the fear, the shame, the anger, and not flinch. Because most men, they don't want to see what's inside. They build noise around them. Work, distractions, women, alcohol, ambition, anything but silence. Because silence is where the truth lives. And that truth terrifies them. But if you want to be strong, you have to go there. You have to walk into the fire naked and alone, and say, show me what I am. That's the beginning of transformation. That's what I did. I didn't run. I didn't numb. I sat. For days, I sat in the wreckage of my life and asked the hard questions. Why did I fail? Why did I betray myself? What am I really afraid of? And little by little, the answers came, not in words, but in clarity, in stillness, in presence. I realized I had been living to impress, to prove, to win. Every choice I made was about how it would look, not how it felt. I was playing a role, and like all roles, it eventually crumbled under the weight of reality. So I made a vow. No more pretending, no more masks, no more chasing applause. From that day on, I would speak the truth, even if my voice shook. I would stand up, even if my knees trembled. I would love deeply, even if it hurt. Because that's strength. Strength is not what you do. It's who you are when everything falls apart. And here's what they don't tell you. A real man doesn't seek control. He seeks mastery. Over himself, his emotions, his impulses, his ego. Anyone can dominate others. Only the strong can dominate themselves. Do you want to know what power looks like? Power is saying no when everything inside you screams yes. Power is walking away from what flatters you, because it doesn't feed you. Power is holding your boundaries with love, not rage. It's crying when you're heartbroken. It's apologizing when you're wrong. It's listening without needing to fix. It's showing up when you're afraid. Power is stillness. That calm, grounded presence that doesn't need to prove anything. When you meet a man like that, you know it. He doesn't need to talk much. He doesn't compete. He doesn't posture. His presence alone is enough. You feel it in the way he listens. In the way he moves. In the way he holds space for others without trying to be the center of it. And that kind of strength, it's not inherited. It's not bought. It's earned, in the trenches of failure, heartbreak, solitude, and hard truth. You build it by showing up every single day, when it's hard, when it's humiliating, when it's thankless, and doing the work anyway, quietly, relentlessly, without applause. It's the man who wakes up at 5 a.m. to rebuild his life after losing everything. It's the man who chooses integrity over comfort. It's the man who carries his pain with dignity and never makes others bleed for his wounds. That man, he doesn't need validation. He doesn't need to be liked, because he likes himself, because he knows who he is, because he's been through the storm, and came out quieter, wiser, stronger. This is the secret they never told you. The real masculine strength doesn't roar. It breathes. I started rebuilding my life with no map, no guarantees, no applause. Just one step at a time. No one was watching. No one was clapping. And that was the point. I wasn't doing it for anyone else this time. At first, it was terrifying. When you stop pretending, when you take off the armor, you feel exposed. You feel weak, but it's not weakness. It's rawness. It's what's left when the lies are gone, and it's where real strength begins. I woke up every morning and made my bed. Simple. Stupid, maybe, but that small act gave me back control. Then I trained. Not like before, where it was about showing off, feeding my ego, chasing numbers. Now it was different. I trained in silence. No selfies. No music. Just the breath, the movement, the pain. It wasn't about building a body. It was about rebuilding a soul. I changed the way I spoke. No more sarcasm. No more empty bragging. No more talking to impress. I started choosing words like they mattered, because they do. A man is measured by the weight of his word. If your voice is cheap, your strength is hollow. And I began listening more. Really listening. To the people around me. To myself. You'd be surprised how much wisdom there is in silence if you stop trying to fill it. One day, I ran into an old friend. He looked me up and down and said, "You seem different." I smiled. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. When you start living from a place of truth, it shows. You don't have to announce it. But here's the part no one tells you: growth hurts. When you choose the path of real strength, you will lose people. You will disappoint others. Some will call you cold, arrogant, distant, because you're no longer bending. You're no longer playing small to keep them comfortable. That's the price of becoming real. You stop being who the world wants you to be and start being who you were meant to be. And not everyone is ready for that version of you. There were nights I cried, not out of weakness, but out of release. Letting go of years of shame, guilt, and false identity. It breaks something inside you before it rebuilds. But every tear was part of the cleansing. Every ache was a sign of growth. I started keeping a journal, writing what I felt, what I feared, what I hoped. It helped me trace the patterns in my thoughts, helped me catch the lies I still told myself. You can't grow if you don't know yourself, and you can't know yourself if you don't look closely. I went back and read the works of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, not as quotes to post online, but as mirrors. They wrote about pain, control, discipline, fear, ego. They wrote as men who had lived, suffered, endured. And I understood them now in a way I never could before. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." I had read that before, but now I felt it. I had no power over the world that fell apart around me, but I had power over how I stood inside it. That's real strength. Choosing dignity in defeat. Choosing patience in chaos. Choosing calm in the face of rejection. I stopped chasing goals that weren't mine. I used to want things because others had them. A certain lifestyle. A certain income. A certain image. But I realized, I didn't want any of it. I wanted peace. I wanted clarity. I wanted to wake up and like the man in the mirror. So I simplified. Cut out distractions. I said no more often. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped apologizing for taking space. I stopped trying to be understood by people who had no interest in seeing me. That's another form of strength, letting people misunderstand you, and not needing to correct them. I started mentoring young men, not because I thought I had all the answers, but because I knew the pain of having none. I told them what no one had told me: you don't have to be a machine. You don't have to be a hero. You just have to be honest, brave, present. And one of them asked me, "But how do I know if I'm strong enough?" I told him this: if you're still here, still standing, after everything life has thrown at you, you're already stronger than you think. Now the question is, what will you do with that strength? Because that's the turning point. Strength is not about surviving. It's about rising. About choosing to stand tall when life has tried to break your spine. About loving when you have every reason to hate. About trusting again when the world taught you to close your heart. You want to know the secret of true masculine power? It's not in your fists. It's in your restraint. It's not in your voice. It's in your silence. It's not in your victories. It's in your grace when you lose. That kind of strength, it changes everything. It changes how you walk, how you love, how you lead. It changes the way people feel when they're around you. Because true power is not felt in your presence, it's felt in their own. Because you give them space to breathe, to be, to grow. I've seen it. In fathers who show up without needing thanks. In men who take responsibility without complaint. In those who face their addictions, their demons, their wounds, and say, "It stops with me." That's a man. Not perfect, not fearless, but grounded. Aware. Dangerous in the best way, not because he harms, but because he protects. Not because he controls, but because he liberates. You want to be that man? Then stop looking outside. Look in. Everything changed the day I stopped asking, what do I need to prove, and started asking, what do I need to build? There's a massive difference. Proving is about ego. Building is about legacy. One is loud, the other quiet. One dies with the applause, the other lives in silence long after you're gone. I started rebuilding relationships, not by chasing people, but by showing up differently. My energy was no longer needy, no longer reactive. I didn't reach out to be validated. I reached out to serve, to listen, to reconnect without expectation. That's something a lot of men don't understand. Your strength isn't in how many people you lead, it's in how deeply you can connect without needing to control. There were conversations I had avoided for years. Apologies I had never said. Questions I was afraid to ask. But strength means stepping into discomfort. So I picked up the phone. I sat down face to face. I said, I was wrong. I said, I forgive you. I said, this hurt me, but I'm not carrying it anymore. No shouting. No blame. Just truth. And that truth set something free. When you stop needing others to act a certain way in order for you to feel whole, you begin to understand what freedom actually means. When you take responsibility for your emotional life, for your triggers, your insecurities, your reactions, you stop being a slave to circumstance. You become grounded, solid, calm in chaos. And women notice. Not just in the romantic sense, but on a human level. A man who is whole does not threaten. He holds. He doesn't seek to dominate. He creates space. And in that space, others feel seen, safe, valued. You want to be attractive? Learn to listen without judging. Learn to hold eye contact without flinching. Learn to stand in silence without needing to fill it. That's presence. That's power. But presence can't be faked. It comes from a deep inner stillness. From having met yourself in the dark, and not run away. From having asked the hard questions. Who am I when no one is looking? Who am I when everything is taken from me? Who am I without the titles, the income, the admiration? That man, the one who knows the answer, is unshakable. There's a story I love. It's about a warrior who was undefeated in battle. People feared him, worshipped him, but inside, he was hollow, haunted. One day, he went into the forest to find peace. He asked the old monk who lived there, how do I find strength that lasts? The monk didn't answer. He just pointed to a stone. Sit with it, he said, until you understand. Days passed. The warrior grew angry, restless, bored, until one morning, he finally understood. The stone did nothing, yet it endured everything. Rain, heat, wind, time. It never reacted. It simply was. That's when the monk said, now, you're ready. It clicked. We spend our lives reacting, trying to control what's outside, to avoid what's inside. But the strongest men I've ever met don't flinch. They don't fight the weather, they become like the stone, grounded, present, and in their stillness, they shape the world. So I made stillness my practice. Every morning, before the phone, before the noise, I sat in silence. No goals, no pressure, just breath, just being. It was uncomfortable at first. My mind screamed, my body fidgeted, but eventually, something inside me softened, opened, and I began to see, beneath the noise, beneath the stories, there was something steady, something whole. Call it soul, call it consciousness, call it whatever you want, but it was there, waiting, and it was strong. From that space, everything changed. My decisions became clearer. My anger faded. My energy shifted. I didn't need to win arguments. I didn't need to chase love. I didn't need to defend myself every time I was misunderstood. That's another sign of real strength. You stop needing to explain yourself to everyone. Some people won't get you. Let them. Some people will attack you. Bless them. Some people will walk away. Thank them. The man who knows himself does not tremble when others don't understand him. But here's the cost. You will be alone sometimes. Not lonely. Alone. There's a difference. Loneliness is emptiness. Aloneness is fullness. It's standing in your own energy without needing to borrow anyone else's. Some nights, I sat alone and felt sadness come up. Not because I missed someone, but because I realized how long I had abandoned myself. How often I'd silenced my own truth just to be accepted. That grief, it broke something in me. And in breaking, it built me. You see, strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about being unafraid to break. Because when you do, and you survive it, you become someone new, someone deeper, someone wiser. So I kept going. I kept showing up for myself, even when no one else did. I kept choosing discipline over comfort, stillness over noise, truth over image. And that choice, repeated day after day, rewired something inside me. I no longer needed to be seen as powerful. I had become powerful, not because of what I owned, not because of how I looked, but because of who I was in silence, because of what I'd faced alone, because of what I could now hold without collapsing. That's the secret they never tell you. Strength is quiet because it no longer needs to be loud. One of the biggest lies we're told is that strength looks impressive, that it's loud, visible, celebrated. But the truth, the strongest men I've ever met don't impress you at first glance. They don't need to. Their strength reveals itself over time, in moments of tension, in silence, in how they handle what others avoid. A strong man doesn't chase attention. He commands respect without demanding it. And he never forces love, he invites it by the way he lives. I remember sitting across from a man who had buried his child. No words, just his presence. There was no collapse, no theatrics, no drama, only a quiet, brutal kind of dignity. He looked broken, but he wasn't. He was shattered and whole at the same time. That's when I saw what real strength is, the ability to carry pain without letting it poison you, the ability to walk through fire without becoming ash. We're taught to fear pain, to avoid it, numb it, run from it. But a man who wants to grow must be willing to feel. Pain, after all, is a teacher. It reveals. It purifies. It cuts away the illusions and shows you who you really are. Weak men avoid pain. Strong men allow it to shape them. You want to be strong? Learn to feel deeply without being ruled by what you feel. That's the razor's edge. Anyone can act out. Anyone can scream or shut down or lash out. But it takes a man to sit with grief and not let it turn into bitterness. To sit with anger and not let it turn into violence. To sit with fear and not let it paralyze him. That's emotional discipline. And it's rare. Most men are slaves to their emotions, they just hide it behind toughness. But real strength means having power over your inner world. It means not letting your emotions decide who you are. It means saying, yes, I'm afraid, and I'm still going forward. Or, yes, I'm hurt, and I still choose compassion. That's not softness. That's mastery. I had to learn this the hard way. There were moments when I wanted to shut the world out, when I wanted to go back to the old patterns. Isolation, numbness, distraction. But every time I stood in the discomfort instead, something inside me expanded. I grew a little more. And that growth wasn't visible to others, but I felt it. In how I reacted, in how I spoke, in how I stayed calm when chaos erupted around me. A storm raged in my life once. A situation I couldn't control. Accusations, misunderstandings, people turning away. The old me would have fought to be understood. I would have begged, explained, defended, raged. But the new me? I said nothing. I let truth speak in time. I held the line. I didn't crumble, and I didn't lash out. That silence was the loudest thing I'd ever done. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is nothing. Not react, not explode. Just breathe, just stand, just wait. Because time always reveals who you are. And when the dust settled, the truth came out. My silence had protected my peace. My stillness had saved my dignity. Strong men don't just fight battles, they know which ones are worth fighting. They conserve their energy. They walk away when the war would cost their soul. And they don't confuse retreat with weakness. Sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. I've learned to choose peace over ego. To choose truth over pride. That doesn't make me passive. It makes me dangerous in a different way. Calm, clear, controlled. That's what people feel now when they're around me. Not force, but depth. Not dominance, but presence. You don't have to yell to be powerful. You don't have to prove you're right. You don't have to win every argument. In fact, the need to win is usually a sign of insecurity. A strong man doesn't argue to be right. He speaks to be understood, and if he's not, he lets it go. Because his identity isn't tied to anyone else's approval. So many men are exhausted because they're performing, trying to be strong, instead of becoming strong, trying to appear powerful, instead of doing the work in silence. You don't build strength by being seen, you build it by facing yourself in the dark, consistently, honestly, without shortcuts. There's nothing romantic about it, no spotlight, no trophies, just a daily battle with your own weakness, your own distractions, your own excuses. That's where the real warriors are made. And eventually, that inner strength starts to bleed into everything you do. How you show up for others. How you keep your word. How you walk into a room. People won't always be able to explain why they respect you, but they'll feel it. They'll feel that you're solid. Not perfect, but trustworthy. Grounded. Real. That's what we need more of. Not flashy men. Not loud men. Not charming manipulators. But men who are consistent. Men who keep promises. Men who can say no. Men who can be present with a child, honest with a friend, loyal to a partner, and firm with themselves. There's nothing soft about that. It's the hardest thing in the world, and you don't have to do it all at once. One day at a time. One honest word. One small discipline. One hard conversation. One breath in silence. Every act of self-mastery adds up. And over time, you become the kind of man who doesn't just look strong, but is strong. Not just in appearance, but in truth. And the world can feel that. I once thought strength was about always knowing what to do. Always having a plan. Always being certain. But that was just another mask. Real strength isn't about pretending to be invincible. It's about being real, even when that means saying, I don't know, or I need help. You want to see courage? Watch a man admit he's scared and keep going anyway. Watch him confess he made a mistake, without crumbling. Watch him ask for forgiveness, not because he's weak, but because he respects himself enough to take ownership. Most men avoid vulnerability like it's poison. But it's not. Vulnerability is clarity. It's what happens when you strip away the performance and finally speak from the place that's real. Not polished. Not perfect. Just true. And when you do that, when you speak from that place, something incredible happens. People start to trust you. Because they can feel the difference between someone who's posing and someone who's honest. It changed the way I lead. At work. In relationships. In how I mentor others. I stopped trying to be the guy who always had the answer. Instead, I became the man who listens deeply, responds slowly, and never pretends to be more than he is. That shift in energy, it's powerful. People lean in, they open up, because they feel safe, they feel respected. And in a world full of noise and ego and manipulation, that kind of presence is rare. It's magnetic, but to get there, you have to die to the image. You have to let go of the version of yourself that was built to impress. The version that needed applause. The version that collapsed without external validation. And that death, it's not easy. It feels like failure. It feels like emptiness. Like standing in a room where your old self used to live and realizing it's gone. But what replaces it is so much deeper. So much more alive. Because it's not built on lies. It's not fragile. It doesn't crumble when people don't clap. That's the quiet power of a man who's done the work. He doesn't shift when others don't agree. He doesn't break when plans fall apart. He doesn't beg when love walks away. He simply stands, fully, with dignity. I remember one day, standing in front of a mirror and realizing, for the first time, I wasn't performing. I wasn't adjusting myself to be liked. I wasn't trying to be anything but what I was. I stood there, not proud, not ashamed, just at peace. That peace, that's the reward. It's not fame. It's not wealth. It's not recognition. It's the quiet knowing that you've become the man you used to admire from a distance. A man who leads without forcing, who speaks without shouting, who gives without keeping score, who lives by principle, even when no one's watching. But let me be clear, it's not perfection. It's not about never falling. It's about how quickly you get up. It's about learning from the fall instead of hiding it. Strong men fail all the time. The difference is, they grow from it. They integrate it. They don't let it define them. Every scar tells a story, but only if you're honest enough to read it. Every scar can either become a reason to close off, or an invitation to go deeper. That's the secret. The same experiences that break other men can make you more powerful, if you let them soften you, instead of harden you. Pain will come, loss will come, disappointment will come, but you decide what to do with it. You can use it as fuel, or you can use it as poison. You can let it teach you, or let it twist you. You can build walls, or you can build wisdom. And believe me, I've done both. I've shut down, I've run, I've blamed, and it left me empty every time. Because when you run from the wound, you also run from the wisdom. But when you face it, when you sit in the fire and say, show me what I need to learn, you come out changed. Not burnt, forged. That's what strength is. Not brute force. Not bravado. But transformation. The willingness to evolve, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. There's this moment in every man's life where he has to choose, stay asleep, or wake up. Keep performing, or start becoming. keep blaming, or take full responsibility. No one can make that choice for you. And no one will celebrate it when you do. It happens quietly, in 1,000 small decisions. In the way you speak, in the way you show up, in the way you respond to the voice inside that says, "You're not enough." That voice never fully disappears. But one day, you stop believing it. You hear it, but you don't obey it. Because you've built something deeper, something more grounded, a center that no one else can touch. That center is what makes a man powerful, because it can't be shaken, not by failure, not by loss, not by the opinions of others. It's the core that holds you when everything else falls apart. And the best part, once you found it, you start to help others find theirs. Not by preaching, not by fixing, just by being, by living as proof that it's possible. That's how you change the world, by becoming the man the world needs, but doesn't know how to ask for. Strength, real strength, is not about arrival. It's not a title you win and wear forever. It's a practice, a rhythm, a decision you make every day, especially on the days when it would be easier not to. I still get tired. I still have doubts. I still feel the pull to slip back into comfort, into numbness, into the old patterns that once protected me. But I don't follow them anymore. I see them, I breathe, and then I choose differently. That's the difference now. I choose. That's what freedom looks like, not the absence of struggle, but the presence of choice. And you only earn that freedom through discipline, through pain, through watching yourself fall, and getting back up not because someone's watching, but because you made a promise to yourself. I keep that promise. Every morning I wake up, I remember who I used to be. The man who couldn't sit still. The man who feared silence. The man who measured his worth in praise and validation and numbers that never filled the hole inside him. He's still in me. But now he's quiet. Now he trusts me. I don't try to silence my past anymore. I carry it, not as shame, but as a reminder. Every scar has a place. Every failure shaped me. Every heartbreak cracked something open in me and made space for something better. That's what men forget. We're not here to escape pain. We're here to be refined by it. When a man avoids pain, he remains shallow. When he embraces it, he becomes deep. And in that depth, he finds purpose. You can't live deeply if you're constantly chasing comfort. The man who avoids discomfort is owned by it. But the man who makes discomfort his teacher becomes indestructible. You want to be a king? Then earn it. Not through domination, not through applause, but through sacrifice, through humility, through the daily, invisible work of mastering yourself. A king isn't the man at the top of the pyramid. He's the one who carries the weight of the kingdom on his shoulders and still kneels to serve. The one who speaks last, who listens first, who protects even when no one thanks him for it. That's the legacy I want to leave. Not that I had power, but that I used it well. That I loved fiercely. That I stood when others sat. That I stayed kind when I had every reason to harden. That I stayed true when compromise would have been easier. Because in the end, that's the only strength that matters, the kind that touches others. The kind that lifts, that heals, that inspires. People may forget your successes. They may forget your status. But they will never forget how you made them feel. And if your presence can calm a storm in someone else, if your stillness can steady their chaos, you've become something more than just a man. You've become a lighthouse. The world doesn't need more men who talk about strength. It needs men who live it. In how they raise their sons. In how they cherish their daughters. In how they honor their wives. In how they support their brothers. In how they show up when no one's watching. That's how a generation changes. One man at a time. So if you're listening to this and something in you feels called, don't wait. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for the perfect time. Start now. Start small. Start where you are. With what you have. Do the next honest thing. Take the next brave step. Clean your space. Call your father. Forgive your brother. Speak the truth you've been swallowing. Hold your boundaries. Start keeping your word. Apologize when you're wrong. Meditate. Breathe. Slow down. Show up. Do it for you. And then do it for everyone around you. Because when you become strong, you don't rise alone. You lift the people around you. Your energy gives them permission to rise too. And that is the quiet, sacred duty of a man, to rise, so others may rise through him. Not through dominance. Not through fear. Through presence. Through love. Through truth. So here's my final message to you. Not as a guru, not as an expert, not as someone above you, but as a man who's walked through fire and found something worth sharing. You are stronger than you've been told. You are more capable than you believe. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. only to yourself. And you do that not by becoming someone else, but by returning to who you've always been beneath the noise. Still, grounded, unshakable. You don't have to shout to be powerful. You don't have to be liked to be good. You don't have to be feared to be respected. You just have to show up, fully, and live from the deepest, truest part of who you are. That is the secret of true masculine strength. And now, you know it.